The Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return.
Hello, I'm Joni Siegel, the host of the Addiction Podcast. In 2022, over 100,000 people died from drug and alcohol abuse, and that number is growing daily. Fentanyl poisoning, pot, cocaine, heroin, and even psychedelics and alcohol all contribute to this crisis, while we're bombarded with promotions from thousands of rehabs. Newborns are born addicted, and the majority of homeless people struggle with drug addiction. Drug dealers exploit online resources to sell to teens, and antidepressant use is spiraling out of control. This podcast features brutally honest guest interviews revealing harsh realities and offering hope and solutions through their stories. We don't sugarcoat anything. Guests speak raw and real. More importantly, you'll find inspiration to understand, overcome, and achieve recovery, whether for yourself or to help others, some within your own family, many among your friends or associates. Whether you're seeking help or just a glimmer of hope, our podcast equips you with the latest insights to confront this generational battle. Many listeners tell us they want to join the fight, but do not have the time or money to act, lobby, or just help. If that's you, go to www.patreon.com/theaddictionpodcast and see how you can help. Marcel, Gemme, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Now, you told me just briefly, I want you to tell our audience kind of how you first became aware for yourself that there is such a thing as drug addiction and that it can be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very interesting story. I was 9 years old, and, one day I came back from school, and my mom told me that one of my cousins shot himself.
Hi, my name is Amy Newman, and my husband Bobby and I have a business called Newman Intervention Services. We provide intervention services for families who have loved ones struggling with drug addiction. Our goal is to help individuals get the support and treatment they need to overcome addiction and start on the path to recovery. With our personalized and compassionate approach, we guide families through the challenging process of getting their loved one into rehab and onto a road of a healthier future. Together, we can make a positive difference in the lives of those affected by drugs. If you or someone you know is in need of an intervention, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Let's work together and bring hope and healing to those battling addiction.
Call 866-989-4499 today and say the word podcast to get a 10% discount. Or go to newmaninterventions.com and type in the word podcast for a 10% discount. This service comes with a free 1-hour consultation with Bobby. Wow.
So, that was, by the way, he lived, so
Oh,
there was
okay.
no problem. Yeah, absolutely. So, and then, she told me, listen, if you ever use drugs, that's what's going to happen. So that was my education.
And that's quite an education for a 9-year-old.
Yes. Yeah. So, all my teen, I was so scared about drugs. It was really like even if I saw something on TV or anything, it was really, really scary.
Yep.
So then, I'm 15 years old, and I got a really good friend, that I really like, and we were doing sports together and so on. And one day he's smoking weed in front of me. And then, I got so scared. But it really didn't seem that he was going to kill himself. So like my, like that part of education, like really got shaken, kind of, oh God, So then a little bit later on, I tried it, and I'm like, God, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So
She being your mother.
Yeah, my mom, absolutely. So then, like my teens age, and, I started to smoke pot here and there. And from, let's say, 18 to 27, I was smoking pot every day,
Wow.
every single day. And, I tried cocaine and different harder drugs and so on, and got myself in big trouble. So then at 27, I stopped using drugs, did a program that helped me. And from that point, never used drugs. I don't drink alcohol neither. So
What made
then,
you want to stop, Marcel? What made you say, you said you got in big trouble. Do you want to tell us what that was?
Yeah, sure. First, financially, definitely.
Yeah.
And also like getting, like trying to get money, not in the most legal way, let's say.
Okay.
So, and I think at some point, like when and this is interesting because I'm gonna get into that a little bit later, but I'm a drug counselor. I've been doing that for 24 years now.
Okay.
And at that point I was always saying, when I want to stop, I'm gonna be able to stop, no problem.
Right.
But it got to a point that I wanted to stop, but I couldn't stop.
Mm.
And I hear that like from so many people in my field that, oh yeah, like whenever I want to stop it, I'm gonna. And I'm talking pot. I'm not talking about other drugs or opioids and so on. So it was really that I wanted to stop, but I couldn't stop. And then I got the help, and then I stopped. So and and then life went on. And then I had like an opportunity in 2000 to work in a facility. So I worked in a facility for 5 years, and I was the intake counselor of the facility. So
Okay.
everything until the person arrived to the center, I was taking care of, intervention, coaching the family, what to do. And if you don't mind, I'm going to do a little bit of something to tell the parents.
Sure.
because one thing that like over time that I've noticed is parents are totally doing the wrong thing. So because they're parents and they love their kids, and like they don't want their kids to not talk to them anymore and so on. And they get into something called enabling. So, and just a few tips for parents, that are in that situation. Your kids ask you for money to buy grocery. Don't give them the money. Go buy the grocery for them.
Good point. Yeah.
They need money to pay the rent. Go pay the rent. Never give them the money. So, and those things like that. Like it's just going to help. It's going to help to get the person to arrive to a point that they want some help.
Right.
So I worked in a facility I worked at the facility for 5 years. And, like around 2004, like the internet was really getting popular and people were reaching more for help on the internet. So in 2005, I started my first website, which, by the way, I knew nothing about. So, a funny thing is, I got 4 daughters, by the way. So,
Okay.
and I remember my older daughter coming back from school and say, "Hey, Dad, I found out that if you double click on the word, it highlight it." So, so that was really my knowledge about doing a website. So anyway, it got better over time.
And what was the
So
purpose of the website, Marcel?
the purpose of the website was really to help the family what to do. And
Okay.
then, we were referring them to treatments. And I started that in Canada because I'm
Okay.
Canadian.
So it's like a
So-
resource for parents and families who don't know what to do when they find out that their loved one is addicted.
You are listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information on the podcast or to reach out if you have a story you would like to share with us, go to our Facebook page by the same name, or you can email us at theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com or go to our website, theaddictionpodcast.com. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star review.
We appreciate you listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. We don't do this podcast because we are former addicts. We don't do this podcast because we have loved ones who have suffered from addiction. We do this podcast because we feel that addiction is one of the biggest problems facing the world today, and that no matter who you are, no matter your religion, no matter your income status, no matter your race, no matter anything about you, addiction affects you. This podcast is a free resource for anybody looking for help with it.
And also it was giving them like free treatment if, they couldn't pay. Because, by the way, I'm Canadian. So in Canada, either you pay for a treatment or it's free. So because there's not really private health insurance. I mean, at that time.
Okay.
So this way, we were able also to help them if they didn't have like any funds to pay for a treatment. So, but to be honest with you, 80% of our job was really to coach the family what to do.
Right.
Because like the like emotion gets into it and so on and so forth. So and they really needed some direction. So
yep. And guilt. I think parents feel so guilty, and I think that sometimes that makes them react to their loved one or their child, and it doesn't come across well.
You're totally right. Totally right. And like they don't want to make it a mistake, and this is what like they don't go with their instinct anymore. They just like anyway
kind of become reactive. I think we could say they become more reactive rather than proactive, because at that point they've kind of missed the boat, and then it's what do? I think that a resource like you created, I would imagine that was very valuable to people. But you said that was your first website, so did that then change from there?
Yeah, I mean, in 2010, I started a website in the United States, because the first one was just in Canada.
Okay.
Then in the United States. And then, like it like there's way more people in the United States than Canada. So, it just grew and grew. So, so right now, like we help people in Canada and United States. So, but that was the same purpose. It was really to have family and what to do. I mean, in present time, it like all the calls are sent to a call center in the United States. So, we just take care of the website by itself. So, and it's very also informative, like on what to do and so on. With listing, by the way, on the, like if people has Medicaid, Medicare, or it's for teens and so on. So, they can find the help on it. So
you can refer people to different rehabs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the name of that website? I know it's not the one that's on your background. What is that website?
Yeah, it's a Drug Rehab Services.
Drugrehabservices.com?
No, it's addicted.org.
Addicted.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but the name of the organization is Drug Rehab Service.
Understood. I just want to make sure we get the URL down so we can let people know. So it's addicted.org.
Exactly.
Yep. Now, what led you? The other thing I know that you do, because that's popping up behind you, is education. What led you into that?
That's a very good question. First, because my education was really not good, right? And also, like with all the experience that I have with like family and also people with problem, is it takes a long time. Sometimes it takes months to get someone into a treatment. Sometimes it gets months to get through a treatment.
Right.
Sometimes they don't make it to a treatment, and bad things happen.
Right.
And so this is like hours and hours and hours and hours. When if you educate someone, it's a few hours that you can prevent, like people using drugs and so on. And like on myself, it was really a lack of education. And then what happened is you take like everything that your friends tells you.
Right.
Oh yeah, vaping is not a problem. Oh, edibles no problem. Oh, marijuana is like it's not addictive. And you get into all this stuff and you get in agreement with them. And
Well, and you gave a great example. I mean, your mother told you that your cousin shot himself because he was using drugs, and then you see your friend who's smoking marijuana and is perfectly happy and obviously is not going to go shoot himself. So it's like, that's education. But
yeah,
there's so much more that, you could have learned about marijuana and where it goes from there. And yeah, so I can see that the education was lacking.
no, totally. Absolutely.
It's similar to when in the country here, and maybe they did it in Canada too, just like say no. Well, yeah, but why? Why say no? It made me feel good. Why should I not do it? Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, totally. And like I think like what makes it even worse. I mean, in Canada, it's legal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legal.
I don't think I knew that, but yep, it's about to be pretty much everywhere in the US, unfortunately.
Yeah. And also, like from my time and today, like marijuana is like 300% more potent. So
Exactly.
like it's more addictive than it was back then. So yeah, I mean it's anyway. That's
so many of the people who are pushing for legalization, and we've talked about this so many times, Marcel, they're looking at the marijuana of the 70s that they smoked when they were in college. And that was maybe, I don't remember what the percentage of THC, but it was very, very low. It was less than 20%. And now you're talking about closer to 90%, THC. And it's like, people don't get that's not good.
It is not good. It is not good. And also like if you go like to like, they just put on the market a drug like fentanyl, which is 50 to 100 times, more potent than morphine.
Oh, yeah.
So it's anyway, this is something else. But, like I taught to schools. So let me just get back to
Yes.
the education part. So it was always like a goal for me to do something like that. And I had like a very specific way that I wanted to do it. Because I remember I was in 11th grade and this guy that just came out of jail gave us a drug education. And it was so scary. Like, if you use that, you're going to go to jail like me and blah, blah, blah. So, and I was like, God, like, and so when I wanted to do the drug education, I wanted it to be fun. Because, you remember when you were in school, every like, every course that you were doing that was fun, you were listening so much. It was just like entertaining. But the one that was boring, that was serious, like it kept the attention definitely less than, anything funny. So we wanted to do it very funny and with animation. So we created a SOUP, which is Substance Use Prevention Education. And it is very fun. It is like, the kids so far like really love it. And also the result, because right now we're working on our evidence base. So far it's very, very promising. And, we go elementary, middle school, and we're working on our high school curriculum. And like also we took care very much of the education part of it. Every curriculum are done by someone with a master's in education. A doctor in education is revising the whole website. So, and everything also comes from authority website, like the health and medical data of it. So.
And you have your dragon there. He's very cute. Does he have a name?
Yeah, and the dragon. Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, and he's called Soup. So
Soup. Okay, so that's his name. He's very cute.
Yeah.
And you're finding that children respond to that type of education?
Totally. Because, it's fun and, and one thing, that with, like the kids, it's fine. Like you give them the right education, the teens, same thing. But, like the parents needs education.
Yep.
And, in my case, my mom didn't have any education. So she used whatever she thought that was the right thing. Like she didn't have like bad intention of telling me that.
Right.
So
She used what she knew.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like to be honest, she didn't know anything about drugs because like she was born in the 20s, so there was not really any drugs. So she really didn't have any knowledge of it.
Right.
So so what we did with Soup is we created like a whole category for parents, first responder, elderly, teachers. So, how to teach the kid. We did like a parent's guide to fentanyl, parent's guide to vaping. We made a guide, sign of an overdose, how to use naloxone.
Okay.
And one thing that is really cool with all those guys is people can print them to make a pamphlet with it. So we get like over 150 police and sheriff in the United States that are using our guides.
Wow.
Even some policemen ask them in their car if they get into a home that it seems that they're using opioids, and they're going to leave a guide. They're going to leave, those pamphlets, how to respond to an overdose, how to use naloxone, and so on. So we wanted to make it like really complete, not just the kid.
Yeah, all encompassing, because the education we know from having done the podcast is needed at every level.
Absolutely. And same thing with the teachers and, like how they approach the kid with it. So
Yep.
it's,
And so that website is on the screen when you talk, and that's learnwithsoup, SUPE.org.
exactly. Yeah.
And is there a charge for these materials?
Not for now.
Okay. Okay.
Not for now. So, because right now we're working on the evidence base.
Yes.
Right now it's research based. So, and and so far it's so promising. Because also there's a lot of visual in it. So it's not just like a dragon talking, or there's tons of visuals. And the great thing, and I'm Canadian, right? So, like in Canada, we get English and French. And I didn't know like how much Spanish was, like.
I didn't either. I think of English and French, but I don't think of Spanish.
No, it's not really. When I was talking is United States, I didn't know how much Spanish there was in United States.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yep.
So then, when we find out, then what we did is everything is translated in Spanish.
Oh.
Even like the animation videos, like it's Spanish. It's not just the subtitle.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And as we go on, then, we just always translate it in Spanish. So
very cool. Well, for any parents or loved ones listening, I would just tell you to go to learnwithsoup, SUPE.org, and check out those materials. And, they might give you even resources that you can then talk to your young child, because it's not always easy to explain to a youngster what drugs are, why they shouldn't use drugs, and I firmly believe that if we educate our children and our young people with dignity, if you will, that they will make the right decisions. And that if we are dogmatic about it, then sometimes the result or the consequence is that they decide to go the other way because they don't like being told what to do or what to think. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
That's totally fine. And you're completely right on that. And one thing that you wanted to do is really to give the right data. Like, don't lie to them. It is what it is. So, and then, from there, when they're going to take a decision in the future, they're going to take the decision with the right information. So, because it's unbelievable the false information out there. It's really, really unbelievable.
It is. And unfortunately, a lot of that false information is propagated by companies that just want to make money off of marijuana and other drugs and even pharmaceutical drugs. But that's a whole other subject we could talk
That's
about, is
another subject.
pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
But I think, it's very easy, I think, sometimes for parents to make it either a moral or an ethical decision. And okay, I get that. But to just say drugs are bad, or, it's not enough. You have to educate them. Kids are not stupid. I think sometimes we think maybe they won't understand, but they will if it's presented. And that's what I think the beauty of your materials is that they are geared for kids to understand it, which is huge.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing, Joannie, and I think people needs to understand that is, you can like help someone that has an addiction, right? And so on. And, you can like we talked about, you get the drug dealers and you get different different legal dealers today. So, and, you can try to fight that, but if people know about drugs and they don't use it, then, that's really the right people to educate and trying to change their viewpoint on drugs. Because, like when I started in 2000, I was answering the phone, like for that facility, 24/7. And about, I would say, 10% of our calls were for people that had a problem with medication, sleeping pills or, like addictive medication. And a few months ago, I was talking to a call center in the United States, and now we're talking 85% of people calling our helpline are addicted to medication, and most of it were prescribed. So people has to be aware what opioids are, and like how long can you stay on it and what to do, and talk to your doctor and so on. And on our video, we go so much about that point, because now people are getting addicted to medication more than cocaine or anything else.
Yep.
So,
and you make a very good point. And listeners, when your doctor suggests that you take this or that medication, ask the tough question. Is it addictive? Can it cause dependency? What are the side effects? I think sometimes we think, oh, doctors know, he's not going to give me something that's going to hurt me. But you need to ask those tough questions of your doctor and just say, what are the side effects? And how does this work long term? And if they're not willing to answer that question, you need to find another doctor. Or if they get upset with you because you're asking those questions, you need to find another doctor, because a lot of these drugs have horrific side effects. I know, because unfortunately this country is one of only a handful that allow advertising of drugs on television. And there's a whole long spiel as to what the side effects are, and the fact that antidepressants cause suicidal tendencies and depression. Anyway, again, don't get me started on that. But you have to ask the tough questions. You're absolutely right, Marcel.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like you can ask for something else that is less addictive.
Exactly.
So, because there are, other ways to, and, like you and I know, when you're in pain, it is painful.
Yep.
Like you want to get rid of that, like So, and if you get a surgery or something, so you need to know exactly, and that's all over the internet. How long does it take to get addicted? And to reduce the dosage and so on and so forth. And if your doctor, like you said, if your doctor doesn't want to work with you on that, then get another doctor.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very
So
important.
2 different websites, everybody. If you need resources because you have someone who's addicted or you yourself are addicted, there's addicted.org, and that is a resource for you. And even better is to get on the bandwagon about prevention and education. And that website is Learn with Soup, SUPE.org. And both of those websites are hugely valuable. Marcel, if you just had one pearl of wisdom to leave our listeners with, what would you want to say?
That's a good question. But I think it's really for the parents, it's really to really, really be in communication with their kids about the subject. It's really, really that. And, like I said, don't lie to them, we got that platform that is really good. You can show them anything on it. It's free. It's there for them. And, really the kids need education and yeah.
Yeah.
Today it's different than it was 30 years ago. So.
And you make a good point. And the other point for the listener is that if you don't know how to talk about drugs, you got a resource here. It's a great resource. You can use these materials and you don't have to reinvent the wheel and come up with ways to talk to your child or your teen about drugs. So check out Learn with Soup, SUPE.org. And Marcel Gemme, thank you so much for talking to us today.
That was a pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you for listening today. Once again, you have addicted.org for resources if you or someone you know is addicted to drugs. But more importantly, if you have access to any children, grandchildren, friends' children, schools, churches, what have you, check out Learn with Soup, SUPE.org for some great educational materials geared toward young people. We'll be back again with another interview.
You have been listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information, reach out to us on Facebook or go to www.theaddictionpodcast.com. Our email is theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com.